Good afternoon, folks, and welcome to another Hobby Nightmares video. I really hope you enjoy this one because I have some really cool things to talk about today. The mailbag is full. That doesn't mean you should stop sending your stuff in. Keep sending your stories in. I love to read them. And I have been neglecting my emails for the past couple of weeks, which I shouldn't really be doing, but there you go. I'm getting through them now. But first of all, if you will require any sort of hobby stuff, head down to Composite Games in the description. Use the promo code Northern Exile to get an extra 5% off your order. And your order should also already have 20% off of its price, because Composite Games do a 20% off RRP. So, you can get up to 25% off your next order by using the promo code Northern Exile down below. And every time you do that, I get a little bit of money into the prize pot to get you some nice things. And to add to the Astral Blades without it costing an arm and a leg. So, love you all. Let's get on with the video, shall we? So, our first story comes from True King of the Server. Well, we'll see if you are, my friend. We'll see if your nice little story here is what we need for today. So, hey, Mr. Exile, big fan of the channel. Thank you, my friend. I often listen to your videos while I'm at work, and they can really help get me through the day. I work at a drug testing lab and handle pee samples. Oh god. So anything to help me block out the smell is appreciated. Anyway, my question is this. Are there any noticeable differences between the GW stores in the UK and the US/other countries? Pertaining to the US, I feel like it would be harder to enforce company-wide store rules and keep them uniform. For instance, in my local city, there is one Games Workshop store on either side of the Mississippi, but beyond that, the nearest Games Workshop store is several hundred miles away. I would imagine this makes it difficult for higher-up managers to oversee multiple stores, since they can, and are, far more spread out compared to the UK. According to GW's website, there are almost the same amount of stores in the US and UK, but obviously the store density is much, much lower in the US. Anyways, thanks for helping me avoid the smell of marijuana-infused pee. Hope all is well. Yeah, so, very interesting one. I've been getting more questions recently, rather than stories. We don't have a lot of stories today, but I do like the odd question as well. So, in regards to your question, so I've frequented stores in both the US and the UK. I've been to stores in California, for ease of reference, San Francisco, and in Chicago too. So, I would have to say that yes, there is a lot less oversight in the US than there is in the UK in regards to hobby policy and store policy. This is mainly because in the US, consumer rights are a lot higher as a standard than they are in the UK. What I mean by that is that the minute you piss somebody off in a US store, you're opening yourself up to all sorts of liable, as in being sued. Which can be, a good thing for the consumer, but can also be a bad thing if, for some reason, the company doesn't want to put up with your bullshit and decides to close stores, right? So for me, walking into okay, let me get into the specifics here. So, in the US, when you walk into a hobby store, it generally feels like a friendly local game store here in the UK, which basically means it's run by a guy, or, very friendly, but it's their business. It's treated as their business. It's their thing to push forward. As far as I know, I only know one manager from the US, and he's well, I'm not going to tell you where he is, but he's in the Midwest. And he has very little oversight, right? So he goes into work, it's his business, they don't want to hear from him, don't want to see him. As long as the numbers are going up or staying the same, they're happy if he's selling models. Which is how I think a Games Workshop should be run. In fact, a lot of my opinions on what hobby stores should be going forwards, in terms of the Games Workshop store, come from the American experience that I had. Quite a lot of the time they don't even care what they sell, as long as they're, getting people into the hobby. If you're hitting your KPIs, sort of thing. What I mean by that is that as long as they're selling the starter box sets, and they're selling the start collecting box sets. That's another thing. The KPIs in America are different to the ones in England. So in the UK, we don't use start collecting box sets as key performance indicators. So key performance indicators, if you don't know, are retail speak for we really want you to sell these things, and the more of these things you sell, the happier with you we will be. Now, in the UK, we only look at the starter box sets for the entire game as KPIs. So you look at when Dark Imperium was out, it was Dark Imperium. When Dominus came out, it was Indominus. And all of the sets therein. So you have the 3-sized starter box sets, don't you? We're used to anyway. You don't anymore. And of course, the painting starter set as well. So any of those are sold are good for your KPIs, but we don't use the start collecting box sets. They don't go towards our key performance indicators, and neither do the combat patrols. In the US, so I've been told, both of those things are used as KPIs, which basically means it keeps head office off your back. Now, what I know for a fact is that mid-level GW in the US is not the same as the UK. Mid-level GW in the US basically exists to keep the head office off everyone's back, which I think is a good way of going about it. They basically exist to say, hey, we're going to say all of these are KPI hitting things so that we don't get messed around with by head office GW, right? Because they don't own the business. Obviously UK GW does, right? So I think that's a really cool way of running the store, and that's the way that I would run it. Now, there are always outliers, and I'm waiting for someone in the comments to go, no, but somebody in my town was really shitty, and he was at GW, and... Okay, yeah, okay. With you on that one. Okay, I haven't been to every Games Workshop store in the US. I hold my hands up on that one. I've only been to 2. But at the same time, I've spoken to one manager who has contact with a lot of mid-level GW guys over there, and that's his experience. And he's not in a huge store. He's in a normal-sized store. And as far as you're saying there, yes, store density is a big thing. So in the UK, we are the epicenter of the hobby. And that has good points and bad points. Good points is nearly every city you go to will have a Games Workshop in it. Bad point is we are so under the thumb of head office that if anyone sneezes, head office hears about it and they know, which puts the managers under a increased level of strain and stress when they're trying to keep things just one complaint head office, and if they don't like you, they're firing you. That's just it. If they do like you, and you're one of their people, as in you've kissed the right arse and you've smooched the right back, the right rectums, and you've gotten, you've been there for a while, you can have as many complaints as you like against you, and they'll find a way of keeping you around, because that's what they do. And at the end of the day, if you keep money coming in, then they're not going to care. They are not going to care what you do as long as you're not touching children. They're not going to care, right? Which we'll go into later on. I do have a story about that a bit later on. But anyway, that is me. Anyway, that is my opinion. So yeah, store density is a huge issue in the UK because, we just have head office breathing down our necks all the time, and it's not great. The Games Workshop managers that Games Workshop really like are managers who get in 2 or 3 staff members. They milk them dry for effort and hobby enthusiasm. They burn them out, and then they sack them, and they get some more in, right? And those people do all the work of keeping the Games Workshop running, and keeping the Games Workshop that he's running stable and profitable, right? He doesn't really do very much. He or she doesn't really do very much. That's the perfect GW hobby store manager, right? That they oversee these people, profits keep going up, and that's it, right? They don't do anything else. They just keep those numbers going up year by year, and that's it. I think there's more to it than that. I think growing a community is just as big as growing your revenue stream. I think making sure that new people coming to the hobby is important. But what if that new person comes into the hobby and doesn't want to buy Dark Imperium, or doesn't want to buy Indomitus, or doesn't want to buy the starter box set because little Timmy here wants to start his army with Tau? So, because I got that person into the hobby, they're now going to get Tau, brilliant, but I don't get any KPIs for it, so I don't get any credit for it, because as far as Games Workshop are concerned, I've just sold that starter box set of Tau, the start collecting box, to a 20-year veteran who's already in the hobby. You know, that's the kind of thing that US GW gets away with that UK GWs generally don't. And that's why if I was ever going to work for retail again in GW, number one, I probably wouldn't. And number two, I would be in the United States if I was going to do it, you know. And I would I would definitely go into a Games Workshop interview these days, realizing that I'm interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing me. I don't, you know, you need to go into a Games Workshop interview realizing that you don't need them. You know, if you go into the wrong Games Workshop with the wrong people, you're going to lose your hobby for a couple of years at least, like I did. And that's not fun. So, anyway, those are the differences between the UK and US Games Workshops. I think that was a very interesting question. And yeah, I generally think the US Games Workshops are run better because they're more customer friendly and they are, dare I say it, well, customer friendly and not as focused on KPIs and profits. Okay? Alright, so Stu says, hello Stu, he says, hi, I don't think this is a nightmare, but it is for me, lol. So I started 40k in 1994. Over a few years, I collected 1,500 points, all second edition. I also had collected every second edition 40k codex and third edition rulebook, with a few codexes with books I had as well. I had them all in good condition, reasonably painted for a young man / teenager. It was until 2004 when I met an older woman, fell in love, and moved in. I moved in with her, and I took all of my stuff and my 40k stuff with me, even though it was all in boxes and put away. And I've been looked in for years. I still loved 40k. Right, so you've moved in with this woman, but you still got all your stuff put away. Fair enough. I recognise a few of you have learning disabilities and stuff. Maybe get someone to vet these for you, because they are hard to read sometimes, but this is fine. So, he's living with the woman now, and he's taken his 40k with him, but he's not looked in them for years, the boxes, but they're still there because, he loves 40k. So, fast forward 1 year, the relationship ended badly. Not my fault, she was nuts. I move out, taking almost all of my stuff. It wasn't till I got into 40k again, with painting and, well, all that goes with it, I realised that my 40k stuff was not at my parents' house. So, after 10 years, I got in contact with the woman and was told she had binned the lot as soon as I moved out. I'm still gutted to this day. I never took my 40k stuff with me. Yes, so, yeah. What I will say is, if you get a woman who is reasonably understanding of your 40k hobby, then, stick with her. But also, I tend to think that any woman worth her salt wouldn't give a shit whether you're into 40k or not. She'd be really happy that you've got something that's creative, and calming, and good for the soul, which I think 40k genuinely is. The hobby side of it, anyway. I've never really met a highly strung, aggressive person who's into the modelling and painting part of the hobby. Put it that way. It's kind of like I've never met a violent pothead. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think they exist. So, yeah, I think that any woman worth her salt would be very happy that you're in the hobby. Number two, this happens with all things, man. It doesn't just happen with 40k. Like, if you leave a computer behind, or if you leave something behind, they're going to get rid of it if they're a toxic woman. I've had one or two of these in my life where I've left one thing behind or done one thing and they've just gotten rid of it or thrown it out. I've also had really bad relationships where they haven't thrown stuff and they've kept it around. As it goes, What I can say is that, I'm very sorry that you had to go through that it ended badly. That's pretty sucky. I've gone through one of those myself, more than one. But, lesson learned, I guess. You didn't take your 40k stuff with me and you lost it. But at the same time, you do get relationships like this where women just want a clean break and they want to get rid of everything. I once had a story told to me of a guy's friend, right? So I've got nothing else to add to this story, but I have a story about a guy who who was working for GW back in the day. Well, he wasn't working for GW. Let me just... Because I've got it on my text here. Hang on. It's only a week ago. There we go. Yeah, so, no, he wasn't working Games Workshop. He was working for a friendly local game store. Okay, I'm not going to say where it is, though. And basically, he was with this woman for a while. And she was pretty toxic, right? She was pretty militant feminist, you know? Treated him like a simp. Treated him like a piece of shit. And he said, look, you know, I don't care. I just, you know, as long as you're faithful to me, I don't really mind. You know, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, she wanted to go on a girls' holiday. Like this big girls' holiday. And you know what goes on girls' holiday if you all go away together and they're going to like an 18 to 25 resort, right? You know what's going to happen. You know what they're there for. He wasn't invited. And so he was like, well, okay, I don't want you to go. Like, I think that's very disrespectful. That you're going to an 18 to 25 holiday resort, you know, which you know it's basically spring break. You know what goes on there, you know. You're now in your late 20s. You're not even in the bracket, right? So I want to get married, and you're going over there doing that kind of a thing. Anyway, she goes away anyway after having a big argument with him, and he just relents and lets her go away. And so it's actually a joint apartment, right? So they've actually got the same apartment here together. But none of his names are on the deeds or anything like that, right? So he goes out and he finds himself another place to live, okay? And he gets himself sorted out, and he gets the other place to live. It's all sorted within a couple of weeks. You know, he's not shy of a few bob, this guy. He owns multiple stores. And he comes back home. He gets all of his stuff, right, takes it out, and takes it to his new place, right, and sets himself up, right, and removes all of his stuff from the old house. He pays off the rent in the old place up until the end of the lease, which is like another 3 months away, right? He pays that up, all done, right, comes back. He gets all of her belongings on the day she gets back. He gets all of her belongings, and he puts them outside on the lawn, okay? And she returns in the car, and he's sitting on the porch. She walks up to him, and he says, yeah, we need to talk. And that's how he ended the relationship. He said, you can stay here for as long as you want. Well, not as long as you want. You got it for the next couple of months. But all your stuff is here, just in case you wanted to redecorate or you wanted to take it and go somewhere else. She's having a go at him. She's screaming at him. She's yelling at him. And he's like, no, I'm out. See you later, right? Where do you live? I'm not telling you. See you later. He just leaves. He just goes, right? He's gone. So he goes and stays in his new place. Anyway, after a while, so I've recently got back in touch with this guy because he is a psychiatrist now. Well, he's a head doctor essentially, and he's the guy who recommended my current therapist, who's amazing. And he said to me the other day, since he's become a therapist, he now realizes why that woman was so angry with him. Because what he just done there, she wasn't happy in the relationship, right? He's given her a clean break. He's got away, and she's got away. She's got a place for 3 months, and then she's rent free. So she's going to be able to stay there for 3 months, save up for a new place, and go and get one. Not a problem, right? Great stuff. The cleanest break you can have. She's so lucky to go through that break, right? Because we've all had really messy ones. So, and they're distraught, horrible to go through. And so apparently, he came to the realization that the reason why she was so angry, right, is because he took away her right to fuck with his head, right? He got out of that relationship on his own terms, and she didn't have a say in it. That's how toxic she was. And these women do exist, right? I've been with some of these women, right? They are more upset with the fact that you took away their power to fuck with you, right? You got out of there with minimal damage, and how dare you do that? Because, you know, that's why she was so furious. Like she'd never been as furious as that than when she got back, apparently. So yeah, that's just a male revenge story for you, Stu, just for you, because you know. But yeah, like, and that's not the first time I've heard of a story like that as well. This kind of a breakup goes on multiple times where men just say, look, I've had enough and I'm gone. they either just move out, or they get all of their stuff and leave, or they do it this way, and then they get everybody's stuff out, and they just bug out. Anyway, Dave Bow says, "Hey Exile, I just wanted to go over a story you talked about ages ago, as I'd been binging the content. The one about Dave. Ah, I remember this one. Was it the first one I ever did? Might be the first one I ever did. Anyway." He said, "Well, thanks for that, since that's my name, and I have a similar story." Sorry, Dave. Anyway, my local GW is an awesome store. The manager always goes out of his way to help us out, and we generally get to play any games we want in the store, so long as they are 40k, Age of Sigmar, or 30k. Any points. He literally doesn't mind. That's pretty cool. Let me take a sip of my tea. That's pretty cool, that he lets you play any points. That's pretty cool. So, bigger armies, smaller armies. Alright, cool. I've heard he's had a few warnings in the past about this, which really sucks. And he's thinking of leaving to run his own store. I hope we don't lose the guy. Well, yeah, that happens, man. Technically, you're not meant to run games in Games Workshops at all, from what I've been told. So the fact that he's actually running games in the store is pretty cool, pretty ballsy of him. And if he wants to keep doing that, then he's probably going to get sacked, to be fair. But anyway. He says, "Anyway, we have this guy coming into the store every day by the name of Derek." He says, "I changed it. I've got to be fair." Alright, fair enough. So we changed the name. "And he's a little bit special. I mean, full-on brony style special. Oh, God. Behavioural oddities, things like that. I don't know why I didn't see it, but one day we have a few lads in there who are like 12 or 13 years old. And he is making comments about asking if they are skaters, because their boxers are sticking out of their shorts. They were not, by the way. You could barely see them." Were you checking as well, Dave? Like, what's going on? Anyway, no, I'm sorry about that. I'm skipping ahead. That was the first thing when I thought, weird. Secondly, he would never make sex jokes about anything until those lads came into the store. Then he would point out the bulges on certain models like Alariel and comment whenever they were about. Okay, right, that's also a bit weird. I mean, very strange. Very, very, very strange. Dave says, "Now I wrote this off." So he wrote it off. I mean, I don't want to plaster the guy with a rep he has not earned. That's fair of you. Then not 2 weeks ago, the manager catches Derek looking at the label of one of the lad's boxes as he's leaning over the table playing. Like Derek is standing behind him quietly, just pulling the label back to have a look at it. Oh, wow. He's also, like, pulling it back. Okay, this is hard to read. He's also pulling it back like he can actually look down the guy's pants as he pulls it back. Oh, shit, okay. The manager takes Derek aside and quietly bans him from the store and threatens to call the police if he ever comes back in. Now, I initially felt bad for the guy, as he could genuinely have no boundaries thanks to the mental health issue and just be checking out the size on the guy's pants. But the manager told me Derek's face just dropped in a "I've been caught" sort of way, and he just asked him not to call the police, picked up his bags, and left quietly. Yeah, that's a big red flag. That's the biggest red flag I've ever seen. Apparently, this is not the first instance of stuff like that in the store. My question is, how common is it? Anyway, love the channel, and thanks for reading your emails finally. I think Dave sent me stuff before. Anyway, how common is it? So, first of all, that guy was almost certainly a bit of a, shall we say, naughty individual when it comes to things like that. Because, yeah, the fact that he was caught out and immediately says, just don't call the police, and left, that's a big thing for me. Like, that's huge in that, you know, weird behaviour. And, how common is it? So, I only ever had the one instance in the Games Workshop that I was in of that happening. And, you know, it was generally, the manager generally stomped on it straight away and was really good about it. For all of his faults, he was, like, straight on it and knew exactly what to do at all times. We don't receive training on how to deal with it as managers. You just don't. Not when I was there anyway, and I was there for a few years and multiple training sessions. So many training sessions. And we never once had you know, any sort of training to do with that. So it's up to the manager how he deals with it. And I think they trust you to be adults and like saying, look, you know, this is weird. I need to have a word with this guy. Do not act this way. I'm going to kick you out of my store, sort of a thing. I had a general zero tolerance policy. So the minute I saw anything of the sort, that person would be kicked out the store and banned. I didn't need any more reason than that. I just said, look, man, you've it only happened twice, you know. So I didn't catch anyone being pervy, like actually doing like perverted stuff. But I did catch people making inappropriate comments to children. And I did catch people looking at children in certain ways and standing behind them and standing around them, and kind of like, you know, one guy like sort of pursed his nose as he was standing around somebody, like he was trying to sniff them. And I was just, yeah, okay, man, you're gone. Like, you're weird, go away. And not once did any of those people, like, say, challenge the decision. They just scarpered. They were just gone. You know, even they were even hobbyists. They had, like, bags and everything. Like, you know, hobby cases. They just left and never came back. Went to go to a fucking local game store where they could be with all the smelly people in there. But, so it does happen. I imagine, like... I imagine if I'd have let that go on in the store, that eventually I would have had an incident to deal with like that. They do need training. I will say that right now. Games Workshop need to introduce that. That is something that needs to happen. Training needs to happen for staff and how to deal with people like this, because people like this are dangerous, and they bring a very bad name to the hobby, and they're not as common as society likes to think. I know society likes to have a go at warmer players and things like that, and think, oh, well, no. It's very, 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 very rare. But if you're in Games Workshop every single day, you're bound to come across one eventually. You know what I mean? Just like you are in a normal game store. Or even a D&D store. Anywhere that there is geeky stuff for people who are marginalised and generally niche. You will come across these people eventually because they go into places where they think they will be left alone. Which is one of the only reasons why I think nerddom going more mainstream is a good thing. That's one of the only reasons why I think it's a good thing. I think it's a bad thing in nearly every other spectrum, to be honest with you. But hey, yeah, it does happen. I wouldn't say it's extremely common, because that would be unfair. But if you're a Games Workshop manager and you're there every single day, you see about one person a year where they're like, that's weird. You know, I don't like that behaviour. I'm not really a big fan of that. I had 2, so I was quite unlucky in the time that I was a manager. Well, not really, when you look at the time frame. But anyway, yeah, so it's about stepping on it as soon as you see it, essentially. And a lot of the times, you won't see it in the hobby as a customer, because the Games Workshop manager will get rid of these people long before you ever see them as a problem. You know, they will see it long before you do, because they watch people every single day if they're doing their job. And 1 or 2 may slip through the net, and they will be caught when they're doing pretty weird things in the store. But most of the managers I know, the instant something like this happens, they're like, can I have a word, please? You know, that sort of a thing. And they just kick them out and ban them. But anyway, yeah, not that common. But for Games Workshop managers, it's more common than what you will see, because, you know, we're obviously there every single day. So, Alison, also on my emails, says, hello there. My name is Alison, and I just wanted to thank you for your advice videos. Oh, that's cool. This isn't a hobby one. Okay, maybe I shouldn't read it then. Ah, fuck it, I'm reading it now. My son is 20, and I will not name him, as he says you might know his name. But he genuinely seems much happier now that he has some folks to talk to on your server. Ah, thank you. That's awesome. All right. Sorry, it's hard to read. Maybe because I'm so retarded, I don't know. It probably is, because this is nicely written. So I take it back. Stu. It's me being a retard, man. Don't worry about it. So, she says, he is even going out with his friends and talking about ladies, something that he has never done before, so I hope to meet a young lady he brings home one day. Oh, that's nice. Cool. What a cool mum. What a cool mum. Can bring home the bitches. No, I'm kidding. I've just, like, shotgunned your entire opinion of me, Alison. I'm sorry. Thank you for the advice you've given him on the channel and in your messages. Oh, so we've messaged it before. Oh, I think I know who this is, but I'm not going to say anything. I watched one of the videos just to see what you were saying. You can never be too careful these days, and I could not agree more. Thank you for giving him such confidence. Ah. Apparently he is after a Dead Watch army. Mums. So I will look out for that in the coming months. Any advice? Thank you again. Yours, Alison. Well, thank you, Alison. So, number 1 is Death Watch, not Dead Watch. Number 2, I don't know if they still sell it, but Games Workshop do a really cool start collecting box of Death Watch that is good for any Death Watch player. I don't know if they still sell it, but if they do, definitely get your hands on that. There is also a Kill Team Cassius that Death Watch do, which are lovely, amazing models. And also, there are Death Watch upgrade sprues that you can get, and you can apply them to the bigger normal Marines that are also out now. I will email you back with this as well. I'm just saying it just in case you're watching the video. And also, when you're doing it, use the discount code down below, Northern Exile, and head over to Composite Games and to get your stuff, because they'll give you more money off than normal stores do. So anyway, yeah, but I will email you with some links and things. Alright, so, finally, we have the Dino Shepherd. So, he says, thanks for reading my story earlier. Funny thing, I'm actually from Utah. I just like the University of Alabama football team. Okay. I think it will be nice to share my first real tournament story with y'all as well. I had my big old Knight Valiant because, well, harpoon and flames, with 2 Halverins alongside to shoot at whatever came my way, with 1 little Inquisitor kit bashed from the free model of the month, Sister of Battle. I'll send pics. He did do, actually, and a lot of these look really fucking cool. Game 1 versus Necrons. I faced a new kid that was getting a little guidance from his dad, though for the most part, he told him to figure out the rules for himself. Turn 1, he shuffles up the board with his warriors and a Nightbringer. I come on in close with my Honourable Knight, as my Honourable Knight should. My little Inquisitor, Lady, stayed in the back and provided psychic support. Fair enough. The Necrons insisted on blasting one of my armigers to death, and proceeded to get flamed by the Valiant. His Nightbringer flew up and sliced the Valiant to bits. Luckily, the Nightbringer finished his 5-inch charge, and my Inquisitor mind-controlled a Necron to punch his body to death, and it all ended with her cutting the Nightbringer with her own sword. She died soon after. Game 2 versus Thousand Suns. There wasn't anything to highlight, but lots of flame with many burnt rubricae. I lost on objectives to the dang Zangors. My last game versus Genestealer Cults was a weird game. Blip deployment and a first turn to the Cults led to some major shenanigans. They shut down my Overwatch on my big flame boy, and he did not survive. And they mopped up my other units. Overall, pretty fun, but no wins and a total score of 62. Overall, 5 tournaments I've been to, I've only won 2 games, and hoping on getting more in for the future. Year 2 of playing, here we go. Well, this is the right attitude to come into the hobby with, right? You clearly have an enviable attitude when it comes to losing games of Warhammer 40,000. Because I'm telling you now, if I'm getting blasted off the table and things like that, sometimes, you know, I struggle, you know, with shit like that. And I'm running this channel and saying you should all be better people. But even I struggle with it too. Like, losing sucks. But Dino, it seems like you have a really, really, really good handle on your own emotions when you're losing. And you're in it for the right reasons, it does seem like. Which I really, really like. I think that you're doing really well. You should carry on just what you're doing. And you know what? Things will get better as you get better at the game. I will say, taking Knights might be an easier choice for being a first-time player and learning how to play the game in certain ways. But also, it does mean you have a very low model count, so every single one you lose is huge. I would actually say, and I've said this before to new players, Custodes are brilliant for new players, for me, and also Grey Knights, because you have a very low model count armies. Those guys can take a punch and keep swinging, and you have more models than Knights. So essentially, you know, when you lose 1 or 2, it's not as devastating as when you lose a Knight or 2. You know, that sort of a thing. But that's my advice for being a new player coming into 40k. Anyway, get a nice low model count army. If you want to go into 2,000 point battles, or 1,500 point battles, which is kind of the norm, then, you know, go for a low model count army that you can paint easily and you like the fluff of. Because fluff matters. Lore matters. If you like the lore of somebody and you want to make something yourself, go for it. Do that kind of a thing. Anyway, that is my hobby nightmares for the day. I'll be back towards... It is Wednesday now, so I'll be back on Friday for some more hobby horror stories. We'll be going into probably the Black Library tomorrow, where we'll be talking about all the shenanigans that are going on with the mess that is the Horus Heresy series. But until then, I love you all long time. Please be sure to head on to Composite Games to get your 25% off using the promo code below, Northern Exile. I love you all. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll speak to you next time. Have a good one.